This afternoon I will be conducting a field study, a survey of this area here known as Field Area 12C, looking for the twice-spotted nematode, which is actually quite a rare species to find in this area. First up, it's transect 1, which I think is this way. Search complete, no signs of a live nematode, unfortunately, but on to transect 2. Well, transect 2, no signs of life, but on to 3. Yeah. Section 3, no nematodes there either. Mustn't give up. Transect 4, search complete, no nematodes found. As you may have gathered in this area of fieldwork, it can really be quite laborious at times. You have to be very focused and very determined. But at times, I like to distract myself, you know. I like to skip. I like to dance. I like to sing. I like to twirl. Oh. One twice-spotted nematode. Recently deceased. Oh.
Today on Scope, we go out there to where the science is being found. There's a plant that sends text messages, a UAV that's being used to find and count wildlife, and we try to demystify how the weather is predicted.
Hello there and welcome to Scope. Today, today's going to be a good day because we've got just the right amount of curiosities to pique your interest. And all of those curiosities today revolve around science work in the field.
Sometimes fieldwork for a scientist is literally that, out in the field. But that's not all, of course. It could be underwater, or up in the skies, or even out in space.
The point is, fieldwork is when scientists get out of the lab or out of the office and go and collect their data. They go and get their hands dirty, both in the metaphorical and the literal sense, as we're about to see.
Our environment is made up of lots of living things, but as we change the ecology around us through land clearing and the introduction of other species, we are impacting ecosystems. But the project I'm working on is trying to reverse some of those impacts. G'day, I'm Greg, an ecologist working with the Condamine Alliance on the Enrich Habitats for Life program. Today I'm going to show you how we do some ecological monitoring. We survey lots of different environments, but today we're in the foothills of the Bunya Mountains, about 200 kilometres northwest of Brisbane. The Bunya Mountains is an important area that comprises national parks full of rainforests and native wildlife. But here in the foothills, the landscape's changed due to clearing, and this has impacted the species that live down here. So one of the things we're monitoring here is the bird community. The different sorts of birds that we see in this environment tell us a lot about what's happened in the past and the different health levels of the environment. So you'll get some birds will be particularly adapted to a grassy environment like around here, but as the natural scrub comes back, those birds will move on and the birds that like the scrub will come back in here. So we're trying to build a picture now of what birds are there, which will tell us how healthy the environment is. So another thing we're monitoring for this project is the reptiles in the area. And to do that, we use a pitfall and drift fence line, which is just a series of traps that the animals can walk into, and they're perfectly safe in those traps until we come along and check them. Hello, what have we got here? Okay. So this pitfall trap's caught us a little Kaviya pectoralis. It's just a little skink. They don't have a common name like a lot of our small skinks. He's a litter-dwelling animal, so he will be living around in the leaf litter on the ground around here and foraging for small insects and things. So he's telling us that at least there's some leaf litter and some healthy stuff on the ground, some healthy environment on the ground for this little guy to find a feed. So here's a small legless lizard that I caught in a trap further up the mountain. This guy's actually an endangered species. It's called a collared delma. He's got this beautiful black and white striping on his glossy black head and a brown body. This little guy is about half grown, but this little fellow is the sort of thing we're trying to bring back into these habitats that we're improving. In some of this country that's been managed for grazing for many years, a lot of that ground level habitat has gone for these animals. And so what we're trying to do in this area is bring back gently that habitat so that we can still manage parts of the landscape for the grazing for the cattle, but we can have little hill slopes like this one here that I'm sitting on with that good habitat for these endangered animals so that we can take them off the endangered list and make them a common animal. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I compile this information into a database which gives us a baseline of the biodiversity health of the area and how many species there are here. So then in 10 or 20 years' time, another ecologist can come in here and do a survey and hopefully see that the wildlife population's not only been maintained, but even increased. It would be fantastic to see that the Enrich project has made that much difference.
Field work can take you to all kinds of places, as you just saw, and sometimes even more extreme surrounds. And we're about to chat to someone who does exactly that. Dr. David Etheridge, just getting up the scope link. Hello David. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I'm an atmospheric scientist and a climate scientist, so I go to Antarctica to look at how the atmosphere is changing down there and to look at the ice sheets, see how that's changing and see how those things relate to the climate changes that we're seeing at the moment, but also going back well into the past. And we do that with the ice cores.
Okay, and where are you usually based and how would you get there?
Usually Australian Antarctic Program Station, such as Casey, and we would fly down there, or we could take a ship to the station, and then from there we go to a field site. If it's only 10 or 20 kilometres to the field site, that can be done in a day. But sometimes we need to travel a long way, and that can be hundreds of kilometres, and that can leave us in that place for weeks at a time.
What do you have to take with you?
Well, you've got to take everything with you. There's not many shops down there, and you've got to allow for a little bit longer, and you've also got to allow for a few creature comforts. Some of these places get pretty cold, you know. They can be minus 40 degrees, so we need some nice woolly clothes and a bit of extra food.
Now, what is the hardest thing about working in such a cold environment?
Yeah, a number of things. It's actually pretty hard to use your fingers, even if they're not frozen, just being cold. It's actually very hard to write or type on a keyboard, so your fingers tend to go a little bit numb, and your face goes numb if you're out in a cool wind. So it's pretty hard to do the basic things like talking or writing.
I can imagine. Now look, you mentioned before that you study the past atmosphere and climate, essentially by analysing the gases trapped in Antarctic ice, which you drill down into for these core samples. But just how old is Antarctic ice?
Now, the oldest ice in Antarctica is close to 1 million years. So that takes us through, obviously, a long way before humans existed, and into periods when there were glaciations, when the ice extended right across much of the globe, and to warmer periods when we had climates similar to today.
Wow. Now, aside from your main work down there, what's sort of the wildlife like?
Look, the penguins are always fun, and you can find them almost anywhere. They'll wander up around the station and have a look at you. There's seals around the station, and there's a lot of bird life.
Nice. Any final thoughts about Antarctica, your sometimes workplace?
what's it like?
Look, it feels like the surface of the moon. You know, you're sort of that far away from anything. You feel like you're on another planet, standing up on, you know, a couple of metres thick of essentially condensed water vapour, the ice sheet. And sometimes you've got to pinch yourself to, you know, realise you're there.
Awesome. Well, I certainly hope to get there one day and experience it myself. But David, thanks so much for your time and your insights into what must be a pretty challenging place to work. We'll see you later. Now, what's coming up on Scope? Well, it's a plant that can send you text messages. Yep, you heard right. Stick around for all that and more. Hello there and welcome back to Scope. Sorry, I was just checking that my phone's on silent. You see, if it's not, I mean, we'd be constantly getting interrupted with emails and texts and calls, and it's hard being just so loved, and nothing really there at the moment. The service there must be quite poor. Anyhow, I have just added a new contact though, and it's a plant.
When you think of texting, you probably think of one of these, right? But would you believe one of these could actually text too?
Hi, my name is Kaviya. I'm an inventor and this is my texting plant.
The texting plant monitors the moisture levels in the soil and lets the farmer know when certain crops need watering.
It takes some of the guesswork out of the agriculture industry. So, how does my texting plant work?
These moisture probes are inserted in the ground, and sensors read the level of moisture present in the soil. It then sends that information to a microchip. That microchip has information already stored on it about how much moisture a particular crop needs.
The pre-programmed information, or the stored information, is compared against the moisture reading sent by the moisture sensor.
If that reading is lower than the pre-programmed moisture level, it sends an impulse to another microchip. That activates these relays or magnetic switches attached to the push buttons of a phone, sending a message alerting the farmer it's time to water.
My invention has already won the Junior Technology Prize at the Royal Adelaide Show, and I've been able to make several changes to my original prototype to make it work even better.
My next step is to make it run on solar power. This will be helpful to farmers so they can put my texting plant out in the fields where there is no access to power.
In addition to making the device waterproof, I also plan to develop Bluetooth connectivity by adding an app so that my device will work on a smartphone instead of an old-fashioned push-button phone.
So, how did I come up with this idea? Well, the inspiration came from talking to my parents. My dad always says if only plants could talk.
That got me thinking, what if I could invent something that would do the talking for the plants? I also won a $5,000 grant which has helped me develop my invention, and I get a lot of support from my school and teachers too.
The next stage is to test drive my texting plant on real farms and get feedback from farmers themselves.
Who knows, one day I can hopefully launch my texting plant out on the world market.
That certainly is some pretty impressive work by Kaviya, although it's probably a little too complex for most of us to have a go at. Although if doing science and plants is your thing, perhaps you should head out into the field for this bit of DIY science.
Australia is home to some beautiful, pristine forests that have been here a lot longer than we humans. But have you ever wondered just how old some trees are? Or maybe how tall they've grown? Well, today we're going to be getting out amongst some trees and showing you how to scientifically measure them. But you won't need to do any climbing.
For this experiment, you need a measuring tape, pen and paper, and a friend. Oh, and some trees. Firstly, we measure around the tree. When scientists do this, they always measure from 1.3 meters above ground level.
If the ground is uneven, take a measurement from the highest point. Once you have accurately measured 1.3 metres, wrap the measuring tape tightly around the tree. Then it's simply a case of recording the circumference in centimetres. Repeat the process with a few more trees in the area.
The circumference of the tree can be used to calculate the age of the tree. Although different trees grow at different rates,
The numbers can give you a pretty good idea of the oldest tree in your measured group.
this is because trees grow a new layer of wood each year, causing their trunks to expand. These layers can even be seen as rings on a stump. For scientists, the age of trees can reveal how the climate has changed over time, and also when there's been extreme weather events like droughts and floods.
Measuring the height of a tree can be a little bit trickier.
But, believe it or not, all you need is a pencil.
One person stands at the base of the tree, while the other walks away holding the pencil up until the tree is the same height as the pencil.
From that spot, turn the pencil horizontally, with one end at the base of the tree.
Then the person standing at the tree walks away from the tree until they are lined up with the end of the pencil.
Lastly, take the tape measure and measure the distance from the person back to the base of the tree, and that's the approximate height. So that makes this tree about 8.4 metres tall.
Collecting this kind of data over time is not only useful for scientists, but town planners too. So we can plant trees that best suit our cities and our backyards.
So next time someone asks you about the age or the height of the tree,
You won't be stumped.
Coming up on Scope, we take to the skies in search of koalas. And not that the koalas are in the skies, but the science is. Oh, and still in the skies, we check out what's up there that makes it rain, hail or shine. So stick around. Hello, you are back on Scope. And today, if the science can't go to the people, then the people must go to the science. That's right, we're out in the field, getting out there and finding out stuff. Like koalas, for example. And how about finding them with a small flying vehicle? Sure, why not?
This is a drone, also known as an unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV, or an aerial robot. They're becoming a familiar sight in our skies.
But this drone is doing something very special. Hi, I'm Philippe.
And I'm Gavin, and we're from the Queensland University of Technology.
Our drone is an exciting new technology for wildlife conservation. Tracking threatened species like koalas relies on people accurately counting them from the ground, or using dogs to pick up the scent of koalas' scattered poo at the base of trees. It can take a team of researchers an hour to survey koala numbers in the area the size of a football field. Our drone can cover the same area in 5 minutes. It's not only faster, it saves money too. The infrared camera detects the animal's body heat and sends the pictures or thermal images back to the team on the ground, allowing them to see the vision in real time. The data collected is then analyzed using a special image processing software we've developed.
Our technology is so accurate, it can distinguish koalas from other creatures, like possums that may also be in the trees.
This makes tracking koala numbers more accurate.
By changing the algorithms or calculations, we can send the drone up to detect the unique body heat of different animals like dingoes and feral pigs. Our software has other uses too. By attaching these multi and hyperspectral cameras to the drone, we can detect disease and pests in farm crops and among tree species and forests. Multi and hyperspectral cameras allow us to see things beyond a human's visual range.
Combined with the drone's ability to hover in one spot, the cameras can detect animals that huddle in dens like wild dogs and rabbits. This is good news for farmers wanting to protect their stock and crops. Our software also allows us to pre-program the drone's flight path, and we can operate it manually or autonomously, so it can go places humankind can't go.
Because our software can program the drone to pick up humans too, we hope that one day it can be used in Africa to help stop poachers.
And that's just another way drones could revolutionize wildlife conservation.
Can you predict the future? Would you believe somebody if they told you that they could? Well, generally speaking, I wouldn't. But if it was a meteorologist and they were predicting the weather, I say go with it. Probably.
Showers and thunderstorms beginning to fire up.
It's been a grey old day, 17 degrees the maximum with showers.
We have got a rain band moving across New South Wales.
Ever wondered how those TV weather presenters know what the weather will be like tomorrow?
Well, they get all their information from me. Hi, my name's Andrea Peace, and I'm a meteorologist with the Bureau of Meteorology.
Meteorology is the study of the relationship between the Earth's atmosphere and the surface, including the oceans. Across the world each day, hundreds of thousands of weather observations are taken and are studied by meteorologists so that they know what is happening now.
This automatic weather station is one of 600 similar stations that the Bureau has all around Australia, including several located on offshore reefs and islands. The stations provide readings of air temperature, wind speed and direction, air pressure, rainfall, as well as relative humidity. So in here we have our thermometer, which we use to measure the temperature. The reason that we have it in the shade is so that we're getting a true reading of the air temperature and not the influence of the sun's rays hitting the thermometer. And this is our anemometer, which we use to measure wind speed, direction and gusts. We like to have the anemometer in a nice open area, and we measure the wind speed 10 metres above the surface to reduce the influence of friction. This is our rain gauge, which we use to measure rainfall. It's called a tipping bucket rain gauge because every time 0.2 millimetres of rain falls in this bucket, it tips. It allows us to measure not only how much rain has fallen, but also how quickly the rain fell. So these observations help us understand what's happening now, but let me show you the sophisticated computer models that we use to look into the future. So this is our forecasting centre where we analyse data from weather stations all over Australia. Producing weather forecasts involves the collation of massive streams of data, not just from the ground weather stations, but also from radar,